Yes, it is still Simpsons month. I can't get this one in. I'm so sorry I don't post very much or, at all anymore. But, I have some reasons. They're valid. Say hi to the reason. Say hi, Casper.
Casper!
Yeah, there we go. Okay, that should be good.
You stole my heart away. Now this boy has to love you so.
The perfect chance to make my patented space-age out-of-this-world-moon-waffles. Let's see here. Caramels, waffle batter, liquid smoke. Ooh, waffle runoff. Fattening.
Yeah, I'm not making those waffles, alright? Babish already did that. You can watch that video. It's 1,000 times better than anything I'll ever make. What I am going to do, similar to the Homer's Breakfast video that I did before, I'm going to turn Homer's Space-Age-Moon-Waffles into a drink. So, bear with me now. First thing we need to do is fat wash some scotch. So come on, I'll show you how to do it. To do this, we start by melting some butter in a pan. About a 1 full stick to 16 ounces of whiskey. Get that nice and melted. Measure out 16 ounces of whiskey. Of course, you can play with these proportions. This was just a recipe that I found online, and I didn't feel like using a whole bottle. Pour in your melted butter. The recipe did say to let it cool, and I didn't do that, but I think it'd still turn out okay. And give it a whisk to incorporate all those liquids together. Make sure the butter and the whiskey are nice and blended. It will separate, but that's okay. We want to get it mixed up right away, just so that the flavors can blend together. Then seal it up and leave it out on the counter for 2 to 3 hours to allow it to separate again. Put it in the freezer overnight, and I'll catch up with you tomorrow. Now, all you need to do is pour the whiskey through a sieve to separate out all the solids. Oh, probably should break up that butter to be able to get it through. Use a fine mesh screen and a cheesecloth to catch all the solids. Then, that got most of it, but just to be on the safe side and make sure that this is really clear and clarified, you're going to want to filter it through a coffee filter. This is going to take a while, but just leave it alone, let it do its thing, and the end result is going to be beautiful and delicious. Then transfer it into a glass bottle. In this case, I'm using the same bottle that the whiskey came from. Go ahead and throw a nice, attractive label on there so nobody mistakes it for the regular stuff. All right, now that we have our butter-infused smoky scotch, that's going to be the base of this drink here. I'm thinking Space-Age-Moon-Waffles old-fashioned. So hear me out. Waffles, made from wheat flour, waffle batter. Scotch, made from grains and mash. Stick of butter, fat washed scotch. Caramels, we need a caramel simple syrup. So, come with me again, we'll do that too. Alright, for the caramel syrup, I could have just used regular caramel syrup that you buy, or I could have used just sugar and, cooked it until it became caramel. But I wanted to use these really nice, quality, store-bought Celtic sea salt caramels, figuring the salt would add a little something, and I had them on hand, so I figured I'd use them. Melt these in a double boiler with, you could use some cream or milk, or in this case I'm just using water because I'm trying to thin it out as much as possible. I don't want it to be a thick syrup. I'm not rimming a glass with it. I'm trying to mix it in with some alcohol. Once that's nice and melted, measure out equal amount of plain water, mix the two together, and continue to heat it through. Get it nice and incorporated. We want this to be very thin, very watery. We're not looking to make a caramel sauce. We want this to be a thin syrup that would blend well with whiskey. Okay, now that we have our butter-washed peated scotch and our caramel simple syrup, all that's left to do is to put this together into a classic old-fashioned with some, albeit unusual ingredients, but I think this is going to be quite tasty. Start with 1 large ice cube. We're going to do 2 ounces of our butter-washed scotch and about half an ounce of our caramel syrup. Homer would probably make it more like a full ounce, but I don't like things to be that sweet. Stir that up, and as a final touch, sweet tooth, anyone? Alright, so I'll admit the drink doesn't look the greatest. We lost some of the clarity of the fat-washed scotch by adding the caramel syrup, but the flavor should still be really good. That is wild. That is... I need another opinion on this. Hey, babe?
Yeah.
You wanna come taste this?
Sure.
Here.
Come on, Cass.
Hey, buddy. You can't have any.
No, not yet. Just wait. Several years. Alright, kiddo. Oh.
What do you think?
Oh, wow, yeah. Nope,
That
I'm
is-
definitely tasting... That is definitely an old-fashioned. That is really good, though. I like that kind of buttery taste to it.
It's
very...
super... I mean, between the caramel and the fat-washed scotch, it is super smooth and buttery. The caramel is not overpoweringly sweet, though it does really cut some of the smokiness, which unfortunately, I mean, smoke was a big part of the recipe, so I don't know if I want it to be that cut or not, but...
Yeah, like I couldn't taste as much smoke, but it's not bad. It's very good.
Yeah. That is wild. I seriously recommend making this if you can. It's really not that hard. I mean, to fat wash scotch, it's a little bit of a process, but it's not that hard ultimately. And you don't necessarily have to, get quality caramels and melt them down. You can buy a caramel syrup and it would be basically the same thing. I chose the sea salt caramel to give it just a little something extra. There was no salt in Homer's waffle, but there probably was.
I mean, it's Homer. Of course there would be.
Well, so it wasn't a very spectacular Simpsons month, but hey, I got something done, and that's saying something. Right, Casper? Yeah?
Right, Dan.
Yeah. All right. I'll see you next year.